All right, today we're going to be pinning the 10 cut high security ignition for the 2014 and beyond Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra pickup trucks. For purposes of purchase, the ignition for these high security 10 cuts is 7024124. And starting with the diagram, we're looking at two right, two right, two right are the positions on this engineering cut. So those are the right side tumblers. Then on the left, you're going one left, one left, one left, and then a two left-hand tumbler. And that's the tumblers you use for this particular exercise in engineering code. And these are conveniently placed in now what we call repair kits. So all the components come inside one bag, a Strattec bag, and they have other bags within the bag. You have your retainers. For purposes of this exercise, we have a couple of cut keys in our educational pack. You wouldn't get those when you purchase the item. And then we have all the tumblers that are necessary for pinning. And then the other components, there's a cap in this particular ignition, the cylinder sleeve, and part of the retainer here. And then grease comes with it for the tumblers. So these are the components that generally come in a repair kit. And what we're going to do is populate the ignition cylinder first. And so we're doing is starting on the left side of the cylinder. And again, to determine what the left side is, it's the spring hole and tumbler ward closest to the head of the cylinder. So this is left on this side. And if you were to flip this around, you'll see that the right side, the tumbler ward and spring hole, is one slot away from the head of the key, or the head of the cylinder. So this is your left. So what we're going to do is start with the left hand side, and you always want to put some grease in order to make sure it's lubricated properly, and it helps you hold in some of your springs and helps retain the tumblers a little bit. And put all the springs in. The four positions you'll be populating on this side of that ignition cylinder. So I'm putting all four springs in. And one more to go. And then from there, the left hand tumblers we're going to be using are 1, 1, 1, 2. So what I have laid out here are 3 number 1 left tumblers and 1 number 2 left. So I'm going to insert the 1 left closest to the head of the cylinder first. And then it's all 1s. So the next one is a 1. The one following that is a 1. And then there's a 2 here. So I'm going to check this key. To make sure I have the tumblers populated correctly is I'm going to insert the key, and what you should get is that these tumblers are all flush with the edge of the cylinder. If you have one of them sticking up, then you know you've put a wrong tumbler in a wrong position based on the key. So I'm going to take that key out. I have them in there correctly. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to populate the right side. Now keeping in mind you have to hold these tumblers in when you flip it over, so you can't let them fall out. They don't self-retain or they don't snap in. So you have to hold a finger over the back side of this and start with populating the right side. So I'm going to insert grease. Just a little bit down in each tumbler ward and spring hole. I'm going to insert the springs, and again, like I said, all the springs can go in. One extra there. And now on the right side, I'm going to populate the tumblers starting nearest the head. And the cuts per the Slim Billy instructions are 2, 2, and 2. So they're all number 2 right tumblers on this side based on the key cut for this exercise. So they're all the same. So I'm going to put them in position. And then basically I'm going to depress them with my thumb, insert the key. Now you're looking at the right side. You'll see how everything's flush here. And if I flip back over to this side, everything is flush on the left side. So after you've tumbled the ignition cylinder, put all the tumblers in, the next point is to slide this sleeve over the cylinder to secure the tumblers. And I have the key in there. So I'm just going to put this sleeve over, and with that going into position, you'll notice there is a little notch on the end of that sleeve that lines up with a feature of the cylinder here. And what you're needing to do, it's a slot for the actuator component tab that is the actuator. So once this slot is lined up with the rest of the cylinder, this piece, which is the actuator, has to go in and fit somewhat like a puzzle, so that this surface here is flush with the sleeve. So you kind of see three-dimensionally how it lines up. And with that, then this feature will eventually mate up with the slot on what's called the retainer collar, and then this is the actual retainer and retainer spring that's going to go in the retainer hole in the cylinder. So carefully, as you hold the actuator in place with your finger, you're going to kind of flip this upside down, and in the bottom of that hole, actually, for the retainer spring, there's a little post way down in the middle of that hole. Okay, so what you need to do, and what's easier to do, is put the spring inside of the retainer and kind of hold it upside down, and then kind of hold the cylinder so that you're inserting, so you're trying to center that spring on that post in the bottom of the hole. It makes it easier than just trying to find the center with the spring itself. You're doing that because it won't kick out then. And once you get it in there, it's going to need to fully depress, and enough to put that retainer collar over and get it in position. So let's give it a try here. I've put that in the hole. Now this again is the last step, is the collar. And again, it goes so that it's gonna, this then will snap through. Okay, and now that's retained, your collar's retained, and essentially now you take your key out. You see the tumblers have locked into position in that sleeve, and now if you put your key in, you'll see that that's allowed to turn that cylinder. Take your key in the out position, it's locked, and those tumblers are up. They're actuated up into the sleeve. And again, that's your full assembly of your ignition. Now, there's one last step, and that is the wingless knob, as it's called. That's your plastic knob. There's different features on it. So you basically just have to get it lined up to the point where there's these little tabs that fit in the slots on the back side, and that's just your last step. Again, that's a wingless knob for more cosmetics on the outside.